The ships appeared on Tuesday morning, hanging in Earth's sky like silver tears frozen against the blue. Daeho Kim stood at the window of the United Nations building in New York, watching the massive vessels hover motionless above every major city on the planet. He had been Earth's top diplomat for 12 years, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. His phone buzzed constantly. World leaders wanted answers he did not have. The military wanted permission to shoot first and ask questions later. Scientists begged for just one chance to study the alien technology. Daeho ignored them all and focused on the ships. They were beautiful in a way that hurt to look at, like crystal cathedrals that caught sunlight and turned it into something more than light. Soonja Park burst through his office door without knocking. Her gray hair was messy and her lab coat had coffee stains, but her eyes were bright with excitement. She had been Earth's leading physicist for 20 years, and Daeho trusted her mind more than anyone else's. "They want to talk," she said, holding up a tablet. "The signal came through every radio telescope on Earth at the same time. Perfect mathematical harmony. They know we can understand them." Daeho nodded. He had expected this. Advanced civilizations did not travel across the galaxy just to sightsee. "What do they want to discuss?" "Everything," Soonja said. "They call themselves the Galactic Council, 12 species working together for thousands of years. They say humanity is ready to join them." Woojin Lee entered the office next. The military strategist looked calm as always, but Daeho could see tension in his shoulders. Woojin had spent his career preparing for every possible threat to Earth. Alien contact had always been on his list, but somewhere near the bottom. "Our satellites detect no weapons on their ships," Woojin reported. "But the energy readings are impossible. Each vessel generates more power than our entire global grid. If they wanted to destroy us, we would already be dead." The first meeting took place 3 days later at a neutral location in Switzerland. The aliens had requested a simple building with large windows, claiming they needed natural light for proper communication. Daeho arrived with Soonja and Woojin, along with a small team of translators and scientists. The alien representative waited inside, and Daeho's first thought was that it looked like living art. The being stood 8 feet tall and seemed to be made of crystal that shifted colors as it moved. Its voice came from everywhere and nowhere, speaking perfect English with no accent. "I am the prime arbiter of the Galactic Council," it said. "We have watched your species for some time. You grow fast. You adapt quickly. You solve problems in ways we have not seen before." Daeho stepped forward. "We are honored by your attention. What brings you to our world?" The prime arbiter's crystal body pulsed with soft blue light. "Your planet is special. Not just because of your people, but because of the life here, the diversity, the complexity. In all our travels, we have found nothing like it." Soonja leaned forward. "You want our biological resources?" "We want to preserve them," the alien replied. "Your world contains genetic patterns that exist nowhere else. Quantum biological matrices that could benefit all council species. We offer partnership." The offer was simple on the surface. Humanity would join the Galactic Council as the 13th member species. In exchange for Earth's biological samples and humanity's relocation to designated colony worlds, the Council would provide faster-than-light travel, fusion power, medical, technology that could end disease and extend human life by centuries. "Your people would be given entire star systems," the Prime Arbiter explained. "Worlds more beautiful than Earth, with perfect climates and endless resources. You would be free to grow and explore the galaxy." Woojin asked the obvious question. "And Earth?" "Would become a protected sanctuary, a living museum of biological diversity maintained for the benefit of all council species. A few thousand humans could remain as caretakers, if they wished." The negotiations continued for weeks. The Council provided demonstrations of their technology that left Earth scientists speechless. They showed fusion reactors the size of basketballs that could power entire cities, medical scanners that could cure cancer with a touch, ships that traveled between stars in days instead of years. Ji-hya Choi joined the research team during the second week. The young quantum physicist had a reputation for asking uncomfortable questions, and she made Soonja nervous from the start. Ji-hye spent hours studying the alien technology demonstrations, taking readings with equipment the council provided. "Something is wrong with the energy signatures," she told Soonja privately. "The math does not add up. Their fusion reactors work, but not the way they claim. The energy is coming from somewhere else." Meanwhile, Tae-min Yoon studied the council species themselves. The xenobiologist had expected to find incredible diversity among 12 different alien races. Instead, he found something disturbing. Despite coming from different star systems, all council species showed similar genetic markers. Not evolutionary similarity, but actual genetic engineering. "They have all been modified," he reported to Dae-ho. "Improved, changed from their original forms, but the modifications follow the same pattern across all species." The pieces began falling into place during the fourth week of negotiations. Kyung-soo Han, a data analyst working with the translation team, discovered something the council had not intended to share. While processing alien language patterns, his computers intercepted fragments of council communications. The messages were not meant for human ears. They spoke of Earth not as a partner, but as a resource. They called humans reality anchors and discussed harvesting potential and quantum stability maintenance. Most disturbing of all, they referred to previous species that had been given similar offers, species that had agreed to relocation and then vanished from galactic records. Kyung-soo brought his findings to Dae-ho late one night. The diplomat read the translated messages 3 times before speaking. "They never intended to honor the agreement," Dae-ho said quietly. "Worse than that," Kyung-soo replied. "Based on these communications, Earth is not just valuable to them, it is necessary. Without it, their entire civilization will collapse." The truth was bigger and more terrible than anyone had imagined. Humanity was not being invited to join the Galactic Council. They were being prepared for enslavement. Their planet turned into a cosmic battery to power alien civilizations that had lost something essential long ago. Dae-ho stared out his window at the alien ships still floating in Earth's sky. Beautiful. Crystal cathedrals that hid the hunger of dying gods. The council had made one critical mistake in their planning. They had assumed humans would be grateful for their offer. They had never considered what would happen if humanity said no. Dae-ho Kim walked into the meeting room with steady steps, but his heart hammered against his ribs. The intercepted council communications were hidden in his jacket pocket, printed on paper that seemed to burn against his chest. Across the polished table, the Prime Arbiter waited with its crystal body shifting colors like a living prism. "We have discovered some troubling information," Dae-ho said without sitting down. "Communications that suggest your council has not been entirely honest with us." The Prime Arbiter's glow dimmed slightly. "Humans are young. You do not understand the complexity of galactic politics. Some information must be shared gradually." "Information about reality anchors?" Dae-ho placed the translated messages on the table. "About harvesting potential? About what happened to the previous species you made similar offers to?" The alien's form flickered, colors shifting from blue to red to something that hurt human, eyes to look at directly. When it spoke again, its voice carried a different tone. Less friendly, more ancient. "You have been investigating beyond your authorization level," the Prime Arbiter said. "This is disappointing but not unexpected. Young species often struggle with trust." Soonja Park leaned forward from her seat beside Dae-ho. "Then help us understand. What is a reality anchor? Why do you need Earth specifically?" The Prime Arbiter was quiet for a long time. When it finally answered, the words came slowly, as if each one cost something to speak. Your species possesses a unique neural structure, a quantum consciousness that interacts with the fundamental forces of reality in ways other species cannot achieve. You observe the universe, and by observing, you stabilize it. Wu Jin Li had been silent until now, but his military mind caught the implications immediately. You need us to maintain your civilization. The council species achieved technological transcendence long ago, the Prime Arbiter explained. We moved beyond physical limitations, beyond the crude matter-based existence that binds younger races. But transcendence came with a cost. We lost our connection to base reality. The truth poured out in careful, measured sentences. The 12 council species had all followed similar paths. They had advanced beyond biological existence, uploading their consciousness into quantum matrices and energy patterns. They had thought themselves free from the limitations of flesh and blood. But quantum consciousness without biological anchoring was unstable. Their civilizations existed in a constant state of probability flux, always on the edge of dissolving into mathematical possibilities. We discovered that certain species possess natural quantum anchoring abilities, the Prime Arbiter continued. Biological consciousness that can collapse quantum states through observation and intent. Earth is the strongest anchor point we have found in our explorations. Soonja felt sick. You have been using other species as anchors. We have been preserving galactic stability, the Prime Arbiter corrected. Without quantum anchors, entire star systems would drift into probability chaos. The universe itself would become unstable. But there was more to the story, and Soonja knew it. She had been working with a secret research team for 2 weeks, ever since Ji Haye Choi first noticed the energy anomalies. The team included Minho, Jung, a neuroscientist who specialized in consciousness studies, and Yoon Kyung Bai, a mathematician who worked with quantum field equations. Their research had revealed something the Council either did not know or was hiding. Human consciousness did not just anchor reality, it actively shaped it. The reason Earth had developed such incredible biological diversity was not random evolution. It was the result of millions of years of human consciousness interacting with quantum probability fields. Every time a human observed something, made a choice, or even dreamed, they collapsed quantum possibilities into specific outcomes. Earth's biosphere had been unconsciously designed by human thought, creating a planet where life could flourish in ways that defied normal probability. You are not just taking our resources, Soonja said, her voice steady despite her racing pulse. You are stealing our ability to shape reality itself. The Prime Arbiter's colors shifted again, this time to deep purple. Your species lacks the wisdom to use such power responsibly. Under Council guidance, human quantum consciousness could benefit the entire galaxy. Meanwhile, across the planet, Wu Jin Li had been preparing for exactly this moment. He had never trusted the Council's promises, and his military networks had been working in secret to prepare resistance cells. Hae Won Ko, his best intelligence officer, had been mapping Council ship positions and energy patterns. Chang Woo Lim, a communications expert, had been developing secure networks that could operate even if the aliens tried to jam Earth's technology. The resistance was not preparing for conventional war. Wu Jin knew humanity could not fight the Council with bullets and bombs, but they could fight with information, with coordination, and with the one thing the aliens needed most: human cooperation. They cannot take what we will not give, Wu Jin explained to his key officers. Their entire plan depends on our voluntary relocation. If we refuse to leave Earth, they cannot move us without risking the very quantum stability they need to preserve. Tae Min Yoon had made his own disturbing discoveries about the Council species. Working with biological samples the aliens had provided for study, he found evidence that all 12 races had once been similar to humans. They had possessed biological consciousness and quantum anchoring abilities. But their technological transcendence had severed those connections, leaving them dependent on artificial anchors and other species to maintain reality stability. They are essentially cosmic parasites now, Taemin reported to the research team. They consume the quantum consciousness of younger species to maintain their own existence. Ji-Hai Choi had been working around the clock to understand the mechanics of human quantum consciousness. Her experiments with meditation subjects and consciousness-altering technology revealed that humans could indeed influence reality through focused observation and intent. But more importantly, she discovered that human consciousness was not limited to individual minds. "We are connected," she explained to Soon-Ja. "Every human consciousness contributes to a larger field effect. When humans work together, when we focus on the same goals, we can create quantum changes that affect entire planetary systems." The implications were staggering. If the Council succeeded in relocating humanity while keeping them alive but isolated, they would maintain access to human quantum consciousness while preventing humans from using it collectively. Earth would become a quantum battery farm, with billions of humans trapped in energy pods, their consciousness harvested to power alien civilizations. But there was an even darker possibility. If the Council's plan failed, if something went wrong, during the forced relocation, the sudden removal of human consciousness from Earth could trigger a cascade failure. The planet's quantum field, stabilized by millions of years of human observation, could collapse entirely. The research team's calculations showed that such a collapse would not be limited to Earth. The quantum instability could spread through space, destabilizing nearby star systems and potentially unraveling the fabric of reality across dozens of light years. Dae-ho listened to all these reports with growing dread. The Council had not just deceived humanity about their intentions. They had created a situation where any attempt to resist could result in cosmic catastrophe. "We are trapped," he said during a late-night meeting with his core team. "If we submit, humanity becomes enslaved. If we resist, we might destroy everything." Ji-Hai Choi looked up from her calculations. "There might be a third option," she said quietly, "but it would require every human on Earth to work together in ways we have never attempted before." The Prime Arbiter had grown impatient with human delays. During their next meeting, its crystal form blazed with aggressive colors. "The Council has been generous with time and explanations," it said. "But our patience is not infinite. Humanity must decide soon whether to accept our partnership willingly or face the consequences of refusing galactic law." Dae-ho met the alien's non-eyes steadily. "And if we refuse? Then you will learn why 12 species chose to join the Council rather than oppose it," the Prime Arbiter replied. "The universe is vast and dangerous. Species that cannot adapt to larger realities do not survive." But the threat felt hollow, and Dae-ho suspected the Council was more desperate than they admitted. Their entire civilization depended on quantum anchors, and Earth was apparently the strongest they had found. They needed humanity more than humanity needed them. The question was whether humans could find a way to use that desperation against their would-be captors before it was too late. The emergency session of the United Nations had been going for 18 hours straight. Representatives from every nation sat in the Great Hall, their faces showing the strain of impossible decisions. Dae-ho Kim stood at the podium, looking out at the assembled leaders of humanity. Outside the building, alien ships still hung in the sky like patient vultures. "We have 3 choices," Dae-ho said, his voice carrying clearly through the silent chamber. "We can submit to the Council's demands and accept permanent enslavement. We can resist and risk triggering a cascade failure that could destroy multiple star systems. Or we can choose a third path that no one has considered before." The Brazilian president leaned forward. "What third path? You said yourself that resistance could cause cosmic catastrophe." Soon-Ja Park stepped up to join Dae-ho at the podium. Her team had been working without sleep for 5 days, running calculations that hurt to think about. "We have discovered something about human consciousness that changes everything. We do not just anchor reality. We can reshape it. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The Chinese premier raised her hand. Explain what that means in practical terms. It means we can leave, Sunja said simply. Not relocation to council worlds, complete departure from baseline reality. We can take ourselves and everything we consider important into parallel dimensions where the council cannot follow. The silence that followed was deafening. Hundreds of world leaders tried to process the implications of what they had just heard. The Secretary General of the UN was the first to find his voice. You are talking about abandoning our universe entirely? We are talking about taking our universe with us, corrected Ji Hai Choi, joining the others at the podium. Human consciousness shapes reality through observation and intent. If enough humans focus together on the same goal, we can literally shift ourselves into alternate dimensional phases. Wu Jin Lee provided the military assessment. The Council cannot stop us through force. Any major conflict near Earth would destabilize the quantum field they need to preserve. They are trapped by their own desperation. The questions came fast after that. How many humans would need to participate? What would happen to those who stayed behind? Could the process be reversed? What would become of Earth itself? Sunja answered what she could. The mathematics suggested that at least 70% of humanity would need to participate for the dimensional shift to work. Those who remained would likely die when Earth's quantum field collapsed. The process would probably be irreversible. As for Earth, it would become a dead world, physically present but quantum empty. You are asking us to gamble the existence of our entire species on theoretical physics, the German Chancellor said. The Council is asking us to surrender our freedom and probably our lives for their survival, Daeho replied. At least our gamble offers the possibility of true freedom. While the political debates raged, Sunja's expanded research team worked frantically to make the impossible possible. Hyun-Woo Nam, an engineer who specialized in consciousness-machine interfaces, designed the global network that would link every human mind on Earth. Ye-Jin Song, a systems theorist, mapped the quantum pathways that human consciousness would need to follow during the dimensional shift. The technology required was unlike anything ever attempted. Not machines that could think, but machines that could help humans think together. Quantum amplifiers that would boost the natural consciousness field effects that Ji Hai had discovered. Synchronization networks that would allow billions of minds to focus on the same goal simultaneously. The Council, meanwhile, had grown suspicious of human delays. The Prime Arbiter demanded daily meetings, its crystal form blazing with increasingly aggressive colors. During one particularly tense session, it made a threat that revealed more than it intended. Other species have tested our patience before, the alien said. The Keth Mori believed they could negotiate from a position of strength. The Valdrani thought their military might could protect them. The Nexari tried to hide from us in deep space. All chose poorly. Tae-Min Yoon had been researching those extinct species. According to galactic records, all three had died from cosmic phenomena or natural disasters. But the timing of their extinctions, always shortly after Council contact, suggested a different story. They destroyed them, Tae-Min reported to the research team, probably by destabilizing their home systems through quantum manipulation. The Council has been harvesting species for thousands of years. This revelation strengthened humanity's resolve. They were not the first species to face this choice, but they might be the first with the power to choose a different ending. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dong-Hyun Kang, a cryptographer working on the consciousness synchronization problem, realized that humans had been unconsciously practicing dimensional shifting for generations. Every time people shared stories, created art, or imagined better worlds, they were already shaping reality on small scales. We do not need to invent this ability, he explained to Sujin Ryu, a philosopher who had joined the project. We need to amplify what we already do naturally. Sujin's contribution was equally important. She developed the conceptual framework that would guide humanity's collective imagination during the shift. Not just escaping from the Council, but actively creating new realities where humanity could thrive. Dimensional spaces where human consciousness would have even more power to shape the environment. The plan they developed was audacious beyond belief. Humanity would not flee to parallel dimensions as refugees. They would become architects of new realities, taking the best of Earth with them and leaving the Council to face the consequences of their predatory choices. Kyung-Soo Han's calculations were both terrifying and liberating. If humanity successfully shifted dimensions, the quantum anchor effect would not just disappear from Earth, it would invert. The planet would become a reality void, a place where the normal laws of physics broke down. The surrounding space would lose coherence, creating an expanding zone of quantum chaos. The Council's ships in Earth orbit will be the first to experience reality breakdown, Kyung-Soo explained. Their technology depends on stable quantum fields. When those fields collapse, their vessels will cease to exist in any meaningful sense. The final vote came after 2 weeks of debate. It was not unanimous, but it was decisive. 87% of the world's governments agreed to support the departure protocol. More importantly, early polling suggested that over 90% of individual humans were willing to participate. Daeho requested one final meeting with the Prime Arbiter. The alien arrived at the Swiss facility with an escort of smaller crystal beings, apparently expecting humanity's surrender. "We have reached our decision," Daeho announced. "Humanity rejects the Council's offer. We choose independence." The Prime Arbiter's form blazed with angry red light. "You choose extinction. Without Council protection, your species will not survive the dangers of galactic civilization." "We will see," Daeho replied calmly. "You have 72 hours to remove your ships from Earth's orbital space. After that, we cannot guarantee their safety." The alien's laugh sounded like breaking glass. "You threaten us with your primitive weapons. Human military technology is thousands of years behind Council capabilities." "We do not threaten you with weapons," Soonja said, stepping forward. "We threaten you with our absence." For the first time since negotiations began, the Prime Arbiter seemed uncertain. Its colors shifted through confused patterns as it processed the implications of Soonja's words. "You cannot leave," it said finally. "You do not possess the technology. For dimensional travel, we do not need technology," Ji-Hai replied. "We are the technology." The Council had 72 hours to evacuate Earth's orbit, but Daeho suspected they would not leave voluntarily. The aliens had invested too much time and effort in their harvest plan. They would probably attempt to force compliance through displays of superior power. They had no idea that humanity's greatest strength had always been their willingness to choose freedom over security, even when freedom meant stepping into the unknown. The countdown to departure had begun. The Council ships moved into attack formation at dawn on the 3rd day. Hundreds of crystal vessels descended from high orbit, taking positions above every major population center on Earth. Their beauty was unchanged, but now it felt like the loveliness of sharks circling wounded prey. Daeho Kim stood in the primary control center in Geneva, watching the tactical displays with grim satisfaction. The Council had chosen exactly as he predicted. They believed human threats were empty bluffs, that a primitive species could never follow through on something as impossible as dimensional exodus. They positioned their ships to maximize intimidation, Wu Jin Lee reported from his military command post. Classic crowd control formation. They want to terrify populations into demanding surrender from their governments. Soonja Park was at her station, fingers dancing across controls that looked like nothing Earth had ever built before. The consciousness amplification network was finally complete, quantum field generators hidden in thousands of locations across the planet. Each device was small enough to fit in a backpack, but together they formed a web that could boost human consciousness effects to planetary scales. Global synchronization at 93%, Soonja announced. Nearly 9 billion human minds ready for coordinate departure. Ji-Hai Choi monitored the quantum field readings from her position near the center's main display. The numbers she watched had no names in any human language because no human had ever measured them before. Reality itself was preparing to bend around humanity's collective will. Dimensional barriers are thinning, she reported. The consciousness field is building toward cascade threshold. The Prime Arbiter's final ultimatum arrived as a broadcast to every communication device on Earth. The alien's crystal form appeared on screens in homes, offices, and public spaces across the planet. Its voice carried new harmonics of threat and desperation. "Humans of Earth," it announced. "Your leaders have made poor choices, but the Council is merciful. Surrender now, and your relocation will be gentle. Continue this resistance, and we will be forced to use methods that cause unnecessary suffering." Daeho stepped forward to give humanity's response. The broadcast went out through every network, reaching into space and across dimensions that human science was only beginning to understand. "People of Earth," he said, his voice steady and clear. "Today we make a choice that will define our species for all time. We choose freedom over comfort. We choose the unknown over slavery. We choose to write our own future instead of letting others write it for us." The departure began in small communities first. Villages in remote mountains, island populations, research stations in Antarctica. Groups of humans who had volunteered to test the process to make sure it would work before the global attempt. Hyunwoo Nam watched the readings from the first departure zone with wonder and terror. "Community 1 is beginning phase transition," he announced. 3,000 people in northern Canada. On the tactical screens, the village simply faded away. Not destroyed, not transported, but gradually becoming translucent and then invisible. The quantum signature showed that the people were still there, but existing in a parallel dimensional phase. They had taken their buildings, their animals, even their local environment with them into whatever reality they were creating. "Phase transition successful," Ye Jin Song confirmed. "They are maintaining coherent existence in alternate dimensional space. Communication links are still active." The voice that came through the speakers was familiar but changed. The village leader, speaking from a place that was no longer quite Earth. "We are here," she said, wonder filling her words. "The sky is different colors, but the sun still shines. We can see Earth like a shadow beneath us, but we are somewhere else entirely." More communities began disappearing. Coastal towns, mountain settlements, urban districts where entire neighborhoods had agreed to leave together. Each successful departure strengthened the quantum field effects, making the next departures easier. The council ships responded with panic. Energy beams lanced down from the crystal vessels, striking the areas where humans had just vanished. But their weapons found nothing to hit. The departed communities existed outside baseline reality now, beyond the reach of conventional technology. Tae-min Yoon monitored Earth's biosphere from his laboratory as the human population steadily diminished. The effects were immediate and disturbing. Plants began wilting for no apparent reason. Animals became confused and aggressive. Even the weather patterns started breaking down as the quantum anchor effects that had stabilized them for millions of years weakened. "Earth is dying," he reported quietly. "Without human consciousness to observe and stabilize it, the entire planetary system is losing coherence." The Council finally understood what was happening. The Prime Arbiter's next broadcast showed a being in full panic, its crystal form flickering between dimensions as if reality could no longer decide whether it existed. "Stop this process immediately," it demanded. "You are destabilizing the entire stellar region. Your actions will cause cascade failures across multiple star systems." Daeho's response was brief. "You should have considered that before you tried to enslave us. The large-scale departures began at noon. Entire cities started fading from reality as millions of humans focused their consciousness on the same goal. New York disappeared first, taking its 8 million residents into dimensional space. Then London, Tokyo, Mumbai, Lagos. Each departure created ripples in the quantum field that made the next one easier. Wu Jin Lee coordinated the evacuation like a military operation, ensuring that no one was left behind who wanted to leave. Hei Wan Ko led specialized teams that helped elderly and disabled populations join the departure zones. Chang Wu Lim maintained communication networks that somehow worked across dimensional barriers, keeping the scattered human communities connected. 60% of global population has successfully transitioned, Sunja announced. Quantum field cascade approaching critical threshold. The council ships began experiencing reality breakdown. Crystal hulls flickered in and out of existence as the stable quantum fields they depended on collapsed. Some vessels tried to retreat to higher orbit, but the cascade effect was spreading outward from Earth at the speed of thought. Their technology cannot function in unstable quantum fields, Jihai observed. They are becoming transparent. Some ships are already ceasing to exist. The Prime Arbiter made one final desperate attempt to stop the process. Its ship descended toward the control center in Geneva, energy weapons charging for what would be a devastating attack, but the beam that lanced out struck nothing but empty air. The building and everyone inside it had shifted dimensions moments before the blast arrived. From their new dimensional phase, Daeho and his team watched the alien ship struggle with a reality that no longer followed consistent rules. The vessel's crystal structure began developing cracks as fundamental forces became unreliable. The Prime Arbiter's form wavered like a mirage, sometimes solid, sometimes barely visible. 80% departure complete, Sunja announced from their quantum-shifted control center. Critical mass achieved. Global cascade beginning. The final phase was like watching a planet-sized magic trick. The remaining human populations disappeared in waves, taking pieces of Earth with them into dimensional spaces where human consciousness had unlimited power to shape reality. Cities, forests, even sections of ocean faded away as their human observers carried them into parallel worlds. Donghyun Kang and Sujin Ryu had prepared conceptual frameworks for dozens of different alternate realities. Some groups chose worlds, where technology and consciousness were more directly connected. Others preferred realms where physical laws were more flexible. Still others created dimensional spaces that were essentially perfected versions of Earth, with cleaner oceans and healthier ecosystems. 95% departure achieved, Sunja reported. Only the volunteer observation teams remain. The volunteer teams were scientists and officials who had agreed to stay until the very end, documenting the process and ensuring that no human who wanted to leave was forgotten. Daeho was among them, along with Sunja, Ji-hai, and dozens of others who felt responsible for seeing the plan through to completion. From their dimensional observatory, they watched Earth become a ghost world. The planet was still physically present, but it was quantum empty now, like a photograph of a place that no longer existed. The atmosphere became gray and lifeless. The oceans turned black. Even the rotation began to slow as the forces that had maintained planetary motion for billions of years lost coherence. The remaining council ships were trapped in the expanding zone of quantum chaos. Their crews had become translucent, sometimes disappearing entirely before flickering back into uncertain existence. The Prime Arbiter's final transmission was barely coherent, its voice distorted by reality breakdown. "What have you done?" It whispered across frequencies that hurt to hear. "The cascade effect is spreading. Entire star systems are losing stability. You have broken the universe." Daeho gave humanity's final message to the Council, broadcast across dimensions to wherever their consciousness might still exist. "You tried to harvest us like crops." 3 months after the Great Departure, the cascade failure had spread across 17 star systems. Kyung-Soo Han watched the progression from humanity's primary dimensional observatory, tracking the expanding zone of quantum chaos with instruments that existed in multiple realities simultaneously. "The breakdown is accelerating," he reported to the governing council that had formed in their new existence. "Every council world within 50 light-years of Earth is experiencing reality fluctuation. Their artificial quantum anchors are failing faster than they can replace them." Dae-ho Kim stood at the observation deck's railing, looking out at a view that would have been impossible in baseline reality. Their dimensional space contained portions of Earth that humanity had carried with them during the Exodus. Mountains floated beside crystalline cities that defied physics. Oceans hung in the sky like liquid clouds, their waves moving through dimensions instead of water. "Any word from council survivors?" he asked. Soonja Park checked her interdimensional communication array. The device looked like a cross between a telescope and a harp, its strings vibrating with messages from across multiple realities. "The Prime Arbiter has been trying to contact us daily. Each transmission is more desperate than the last." The message that came through that afternoon confirmed humanity's worst fears and greatest hopes. The Prime Arbiter's voice was distorted by quantum interference, its crystal form barely visible through dimensional static. "Humans," it pleaded, "our civilization is dying. The cascade failure has destabilized our core worlds. Our people are fading from existence. We offer anything you demand. Technology, resources, complete submission to human authority, only return to baseline reality and restore the quantum anchor." Dae-ho listened to the entire transmission before responding. When he spoke, his words were broadcast across dimensions to reach whatever remained of the council. "You had the chance to treat us as equals," he said calmly. "You chose to see us as resources instead. Now you experience the consequences of that choice." But the council's collapse was not humanity's primary concern. Their new existence offered opportunities that no one had fully anticipated. Ji-hee Choi led research teams exploring the fundamental nature of consciousness-shaped reality, making discoveries that revolutionized human understanding of the universe. "We are not limited by the physical laws we knew on Earth," she explained during a presentation to the dimensional colonies. "Human consciousness can literally rewrite the rules of physics in our local areas. We can create matter from pure thought. We can manipulate time and space through focused intention." The evidence was everywhere in their new homes. Hyun-woo Nam had designed cities that grew like living things, their buildings adapting to their inhabitants' needs through direct mental interface. Yejin Song had created transportation networks where travel occurred at the speed of thought, allowing people to move between dimensional colonies instantly. Children born after the Exodus showed abilities that amazed their parents. They could communicate across vast distances through quantum entanglement. They could see into parallel dimensions and sometimes bring useful objects back from alternate realities. Most remarkably, they seemed to understand instinctively how to shape their environment through consciousness alone. "The next generation of humans will be something entirely new," Tae Min-yoon observed. "Evolution accelerated by unlimited environmental control. We are becoming a species that exists primarily as consciousness, using matter as a tool rather than being limited by it." But humanity faced difficult decisions about their relationship with the collapsing council. Not all human communities agreed on how to respond to alien pleas for help. Some wanted to let the council face extinction as punishment for their predatory behavior. Others argued for mercy, suggesting that humanity could offer limited assistance in exchange for guarantees of future good behavior. The debate came to a head when representatives from 3 council species managed to establish stable communication links. Unlike the Prime Arbiter, these aliens came with genuine offers of surrender and cooperation. The first was a being that called itself a harmony singer, apparently one of the few council species that still retained some biological components. Its message was simple and humble. "We were wrong," it admitted. "Our species lost its way when we chose transcendence over wisdom. We ask not for salvation, but for the chance to learn a better path. The second representative was more surprising. It claimed to be from a council species that had been secretly opposing the harvest program for centuries. Not all of us agreed with the Prime Arbiter's methods, it explained. We tried to protect younger species, but we lacked the power to stop the harvest directly. The third message came from the remnants of a species that humanity had never heard of before. "We were like you once," the alien said, "young, stubborn, refusing to submit. The Council destroyed our homeworld, but some of us survived in hidden colonies. We have been waiting for someone strong enough to challenge them." These revelations forced humanity to reconsider their assumptions about the Council. Perhaps the organization was not the unified enemy they had imagined. Perhaps there were allies to be found among the species that had been coerced into cooperation through fear and desperation. Sujin Ryu led the philosophical debates about humanity's responsibility to the galaxy. "We have the power to reshape reality itself," she argued. "With that power comes the obligation to use it wisely. If we can help other species find better paths, should we not try?" Dong Hyun Kong disagreed. "They made their choices over thousands of years. Every species that joined the Council chose preservation over principle. Why should we save them from the consequences of their cowardice?" The discussions continued for weeks, with human communities across multiple dimensions weighing in through quantum democracy networks that allowed instantaneous voting across infinite realities. The final decision was characteristically human, complex, contradictory, and ultimately compassionate. Humanity would not restore the quantum anchor that would save the Council's civilization. That price was too high, and the risk of future betrayal too great. But they would offer something else, the chance for individual redemption. Council species that genuinely wanted to change could apply for refugee status in human dimensional space. They would have to surrender their transcendent technology and accept reintegration into biological existence under human guidance. They would become junior partners in humanity's multidimensional civilization, earning trust through service rather than demanding it through threats. "We offer you the same choice you offered us," Daeho announced in his response to the Council survivors. "Give up your old existence and accept our guidance, or face the consequences of your past actions alone." The response was immediate and desperate. Hundreds of thousands of Council beings accepted humanity's terms, abandoning their dying homeworlds to seek new existence in human-controlled space. They came as refugees, not conquerors, grateful for any chance to continue existing. But the Prime Arbiter and the Core Council leadership rejected the offer. "We will not submit to primitive species," it declared in its final transmission. "If our civilization must end, it will end with dignity intact." Soon-Ja tracked the final collapse of the Council's home system through her dimensional monitoring equipment. "The quantum cascade has reached their core worlds," she reported. "Reality. Breakdown is complete in their stellar region." The end came quietly. No explosions, no dramatic final battles. The Council's transcendent civilization simply faded away like a dream upon waking. Their crystal ships became transparent and then invisible. Their energy cities dissolved into probability equations that no longer had solutions. The beings that had ruled the galaxy for millennia became mathematical concepts that reality could no longer support. Wu Jin Li documented the military implications for future human security. "The Council's client species are fragmenting into thousands of smaller factions. Some seek alliance with us. Others retreat into isolation. A few show signs of aggressive expansion now that Council oversight is gone." "We will need to be ready," Haewon Ko agreed. "Our departure from baseline reality solved one problem but created others. There is now a power vacuum in local galactic space." But Chang Wu Lim had been monitoring something more hopeful. "The dimensional corridors we created during our exodus are stabilizing," he reported. Other species are learning to use them for peaceful contact and trade. We may have accidentally created a new form of galactic civilization. 1 year after the Great Departure, Deho stood again at the observation deck of humanity's primary dimensional station. Below and around him, human civilization flourished in ways that would have been impossible in baseline reality. Cities that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. Forests that grew through time as well as space. Oceans where thoughts became living creatures that served as companions and teachers. Children played games that involved reshaping local physics, creating temporary pocket universes where they could experiment with different natural laws. Artists painted with pure light and sound, creating works that existed as living experiences rather than static objects.